The rain had stopped, but the air still carried the scent of wet asphalt and pine. I sat on the edge of the rooftop, my sneakers dangling over the ledge, heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. Below, the sleepy town of Ashwood, Oregon, blinked with streetlights. Unaware of the secret I'd carried for years, a secret I swore I'd take to my grave. My name is Eli Carter, and I'd spent my entire life in this nowhere town, where everyone knew your business before you did. At 22, I was the guy who fixed cars at Murphy's garage, always with grease under my nails and a smile that hid everything. Nobody suspected I was different. Nobody could. Not in a place where different meant whispers, sideways glances, or worse. But that night, under a sky so clear it felt like the universe was watching, I let my guard down. And Jasper Reed, the guy who'd been my best friend since we were kids stealing apples from Old Man Carver's orchard, saw right through me. It started innocently enough. Jasper had texted me at midnight. His usual can't sleep. Meet me at the spot. The spot was the rooftop of the abandoned textile mill, our hideout since high school. We'd sneak up there with cheap beer and dreams too big for Ashwood, talking about everything except the one thing I could never say. I loved him. Not the way best friends love each other, the kind of love that made my chest ache every time he laughed or brushed past me in the garage. The kind that kept me awake at night, terrified of what it meant. That night, he was different. Quieter. His blue eyes, usually bright with mischief, were shadowed, like he was wrestling with something heavy. We sat on the old blanket we always brought, the one with frayed edges and a faint smell of mildew. The silence stretched, broken only by the crickets below. I cracked a joke about the time we got caught sneaking into the drive-in theater, hoping to lighten the mood. But Jasper didn't laugh. Instead, he turned to me, his voice low, almost a whisper. Eli, you ever feel like you're hiding something so big it's eating you alive? My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh, muttering something about work stress, but my hands were shaking. I shoved them into my jacket pockets, praying he wouldn't notice. Jasper leaned closer, his knee brushing mine, and I swear the air between us sparked. He didn't move away. Neither did I. I know you're hiding something, he said, his eyes locked on mine. I've known for a while. Panic clawed at my throat. I wanted to run, to jump off that rooftop and disappear into the night. But his gaze held me there, steady and unyielding, like he could see every lie I'd ever told. What are you talking about? I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. My heart stopped. It was a note I'd written months ago, one I'd never meant for anyone to see. I'd scribbled it in a moment of weakness. A confession to myself, I love him. I love Jasper. And it's killing me. I'd thrown it away. Or so I thought. But there it was. In his hands. The ink smudged, but the words clear as day. Where did you get that? My voice cracked, betraying me. Found it in the garage, he said softly. It was stuck in the toolbox you always use. I couldn't breathe. The world tilted, and I gripped the edge of the roof to steady myself. This was a moment I'd dreaded my entire life. Ashwood wasn't kind to guys like me. I'd seen what happened to Tommy Larson when he came out in high school. The slurs, the fists, the way his family stopped looking him in the eye. I'd spent years building walls around my heart, and now they were crumbling because of a stupid piece of paper. Jasper. I started. But he cut me off. Don't. His voice was firm but not angry. He folded the note carefully, like it was something precious, and tucked it back into his pocket. Then he did something I didn't expect. He reached for my hand, his fingers warm against my cold ones. Eli, I'm not mad. I'm not anything you're afraid I'll be. I stared at him, my mind racing. Was this a trick? A trap? But his eyes were soft, searching mine for something I didn't know how to give. What do you mean? I whispered. He hesitated, then leaned closer, so close I could feel his breath on my cheek. I mean, I've been hiding something too. Before I could process his words, he closed the distance between us. His lips brushed mine, tentative at first, then stronger, like he'd been holding back for as long as I had. The world stopped. The stars, the town, the fear, it all melted away, leaving just us, two boys on a rooftop, kissing like it was the only thing that mattered. When we pulled apart, my heart was pounding, but for once, it wasn't from fear. Jasper smiled, a shy, crooked grin that made my chest ache in a new way. I've wanted to do that for years, he said. I laughed, a shaky sound that felt like release. Me too. But then we heard Ida creak from the stairwell leading to the rooftop. Someone was coming. Jasper's eyes widened, and he grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the shadows. We ducked behind an old air conditioning unit, our breaths shallow, as the door swung open. Heavy footsteps echoed, and a flashlight beam swept across the roof. Eli. Jasper. You boys up here. It was Sheriff Daniels, his voice gruff and suspicious. My heart sank. If he found us, if he saw that note, if he even suspected what had just happened, Ashwood would never let us live it down. Jasper squeezed my hand, his grip steady despite the fear in his eyes. Stay quiet, he whispered. We'll be okay. But as the flashlight beam crept closer, I wasn't so sure. The beam of Sheriff Daniels' flashlight cut through the darkness like a blade, slicing dangerously close to where we crouched. My pulse thundered in my ears, and Jasper's hand in mine was the only thing keeping me from bolting. We pressed ourselves against the rusted air conditioning unit, the cold metal biting into my back, as the sheriff's boots crunched across the gravel-strewn rooftop. Damn kids, Daniels muttered, his voice carrying the weight of a man who'd seen too much of Ashwood's underbelly. Always sneaking up here, causing trouble. I held my breath, praying he'd give up and leave. Jasper's thumb brushed over my knuckles, a small gesture that felt like a lifeline. I glanced at him, his face half lit by the moonlight, and saw the same fear I felt mirrored in his eyes, but also something else. Determination. He wasn't going to let this moment ruin what we'd just shared. The flashlight beam swung away, and Daniel's footsteps retreated toward the stairwell. I started to relax, but then he stopped. If you're up here, you better show yourselves, he called out, his tone sharper now. I ain't got all night. Jasper's grip tightened, and he mouthed, Stay still. I nodded, though every instinct screamed at me to run. The sheriff lingered for what felt like an eternity, muttering to himself before finally heading back down the stairs. The door slammed shut, and the silence that followed was deafening. We stayed frozen for another minute, just to be sure, before Jasper let out a shaky laugh. That was too close, he whispered. I exhaled, my body trembling with adrenaline. Yeah. Way too close. He turned to me, his expression softening. You okay, Eli? I wasn't sure how to answer. My secret was out. Jasper had kissed me, and we'd nearly been caught by the sheriff. Okay didn't begin to cover it. But looking into his eyes, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I'm better than okay, I admitted, my voice barely audible. But what now? If Daniels had found us. He didn't. Jasper cut in, his tone firm. And even if he had, I wouldn't let anything happen to you. His words hit me hard, stirring a mix of hope and fear. I wanted to believe him, but Ashwood wasn't a place where promises like that held up. Jasper, you know what this town is like. If people find out about us. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. Then we'll deal with it. Together. The weight of that word together settled over me like a warm blanket. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, dreading what I might see. It was a text from my sister. Lila, where are you? Dad's asking questions. Get home now. My stomach twisted. Dad was the last person I wanted to face right now. A retired logger with a temper as rough as the trees he used to fell. He'd never understood me, even before I had a secret to hide. If he suspected anything, I didn't want to think about what he'd do. I gotta go, I said, standing up. Jasper grabbed my wrist, his touch gentle but urgent. Eli, wait. We need to talk about this. About us. I looked at him, torn between the warmth of his hand and the dread building in my chest. Tomorrow, I promised. Meet me at the garage after closing. He nodded, but his eyes held a question he didn't ask. I wanted to stay, to tell him everything, how long I'd loved him, how scared I was, how his kiss had turned my world upside down. But Lila's text was a ticking clock, and I couldn't risk Dad's wrath. The next day at Murphy's garage was torture. Every clank of a wrench felt like a countdown to something I couldn't predict. Jasper didn't show up for his usual lunch break visit, which wasn't like him. I kept checking my phone, but there were no messages, no calls. By the time I locked up the garage at dusk, my nerves were frayed. I waited in the back lot, leaning against my beat-up Chevy, when I heard footsteps. Jasper emerged from the shadows, his face pale and his jaw tight. Eli, he said, his voice low. We've got a problem. Before I could ask what he meant, he held up his phone. It was a photo, blurry, but unmistakable. Two figures on a rooftop, too close to be just friends, caught in the glow of a streetlight below. My heart stopped. Someone had seen us last night. Someone had taken a picture. Who sent this? I demanded, my voice shaking. I don't know, Jasper said, his eyes dark with worry. It came from a blocked number. But they're threatening to send it to everyone in town unless we meet them tonight. Where? The old mill. Midnight. My mind raced. This was a trap. It had to be. But what choice did we have? If that photo got out, our lives in Ashwood would be over. I thought of Tommy Larson again, of the bruises he'd carried like a warning. I thought of Dad, of the way he'd look at me if he knew. But then I looked at Jasper, And I remembered his kiss. His promise. Together. Okay, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We'll go? But we're not going alone. Jasper raised an eyebrow. What's the plan? I forced a smile, though my heart was pounding. We're gonna face this head on. But first, we need someone we can trust. The old mill loomed like a ghost in the moonlight, its broken windows staring down at us like empty eyes. Jasper and I stood in the parking lot, our breath visible in the chilly night air. Beside us was Lila, my sister, the only person I'd trusted enough to tell the truth. She'd always been my rock, the one who patched me up when Dad's words cut too deep. When I'd called her earlier, my voice shaking as I explained the photo and the threat, she hadn't hesitated. I'm in, she'd said. Nobody messes with my brother. Now, as we waited for the blackmailer, Lila clutched a tire iron from the garage, her eyes scanning the darkness. If this creep tries anything, they're gonna regret it, she muttered. Jasper squeezed my hand, his touch grounding me. You sure about this, Eli? He asked. No, I admitted. But I'm done hiding. The words felt like a vow, one I wasn't sure I could keep. But standing there, with Jasper beside me and Lila ready to fight, I felt stronger than I ever had. The fear was still there, gnawing at me. But so was something new, hope. A figure emerged from the shadows, their face hidden under a hoodie. My heart raced as they stepped closer, holding up a phone that glowed with the damning photo. You brought backup, they said, their voice low and mocking. Cute. Who are you? I demanded, stepping forward. Lila raised the tire iron, and Jasper moved closer to me, his shoulder brushing mine. The figure laughed, pulling back their hood. My breath caught. It was Ryan Kessler, a guy we'd gone to high school with. He'd always been trouble, the kind who'd throw punches first and ask questions later. Figured it was you too, he said, smirking. Saw you sneaking around last night. Thought I'd have some fun. Fun. Jasper's voice was sharp, his fists clenched. You're blackmailing us. Ryan shrugged. Call it what you want. I want $5,000 by tomorrow, or this photo goes to everyone in Ashwood. Your dad, Eli. Your boss. The whole damn town. My stomach churned. $5,000 was more than I'd see in months at the garage. But more than that, the thought of Dad seeing that photo of him knowing made me feel like the ground was slipping out from under me. Lila stepped forward, her eyes blazing. You're not getting a dime. Kessler, you think you can scare us? Try it. Ryan's smirk faltered, but he didn't back down. You don't want to play this game, little girl. Enough, I snapped, my voice louder than I'd expected. You want to ruin us? Go ahead. But I'm not paying you to keep my life a secret. I'm done being afraid. The words poured out before I could stop them, fueled by years of silence and shame. Jasper looked at me, his eyes wide with surprise and something like pride. Lila grinned, her grip on the tire iron tightening. Ryan hesitated, clearly not expecting this. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice wavered. Try me, I said, stepping closer. Send the photo. Let the whole town talk. But know this, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Not anymore. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Ryan laughed. A nervous sound. You're crazy, Carter. You think this town will let you off easy? Maybe not, I said. But I've got people who'll stand by me. Can you say the same? Ryan's eyes darted between us, and I saw the moment he realized he'd lost. He muttered something under his breath, shoved his phone in his pocket, and backed away. This isn't over, he said, but he was already retreating into the shadows. When he was gone, Lila let out a whoop, dropping the tire iron with a clang. That's my brother, she said, pulling me into a hug. Jasper laughed, wrapping his arms around both of us. We stood there for a moment, the three of us, under the vast Oregon sky. The fear hadn't disappeared, it never would. Not completely. But as Jasper took my hand again, his fingers lacing through mine, I knew I'd made the right choice. The next morning, I woke to a text from Jasper, "Meet me at the spot." I smiled, my heart lighter than it had been in years. When I climbed onto the rooftop, he was already there, sitting on our blanket, a thermos of coffee between us. The sun was rising, painting the town in shades of gold and pink. I told my mom. Jasper said, his voice steady but soft. About us. My breath caught. And she cried. Not because she was mad, but because she wished I'd told her sooner. He smiled, reaching for my hand. She wants to meet you. Officially. I laughed, the sound mingling with the morning breeze. My dad's gonna be tougher. We'll figure it out, Jasper said, echoing his promise from the night before. Together. As we sat there, watching the sunrise, I thought about the secret I'd carried for so long. It had nearly destroyed me, but it had also led me here to this moment. This rooftop. This boy who saw me for who I was and loved me anyway. Ashwood might never fully accept us, but for the first time, I didn't care. I had Jasper. I had Lila. And I had myself, the real me. No longer hidden. And when Jasper leaned in to kiss me, the door to the rooftop locked behind us. I didn't regret a single thing.